Good afternoon, guys. I'm sitting here giggling because so researching is what I do. And there comes a time when I have to sit down and put the pieces together. Well, 6 months ago, what started out to be an article has now turned into. But I just wanted to share with y'all this. Okay. Now, this is from the Schott Foundation. Now, in 2019, they held an public education all-day forum with like 7 Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, a whole bunch of different people. The description is in the description. And I'm watching, and I'm like, what is this? Watch this. You're gonna. For so many reasons. But just watch. Hold on.
My name is Denisha Jones, and I'm the director of the Art of Teaching program at Sarah Lawrence College, New York. I'm also representing the Network for Public Education Action, Defending the Early Years, the Badass Teachers Association, and the National Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action Steering Committee. Teaching has changed drastically over the last 10 to 20 years. Instead of being allowed to use their expertise to develop engaging curriculum that's culturally responsive, teachers are often forced to use a scripted curriculum that rushes children through without giving them enough time to really understand the material. Many teachers feel more like a test prep tutor than a test of children, and they're concerned that both teachers and students are heavily evaluated by standardized testing. Beginning in kindergarten, young children are losing time for play and discovery and instead forced into developmentally inappropriate academic instruction in an effort to get them prepared for tests. Although formal testing does not begin until 3rd grade, younger students are often bombarded with practice tests that narrow the curriculum and often leave them hating school. Given that standardized testing is rooted in a history of racism and eugenics, if you are elected president, will you commit to ending the use of standardized testing in public schools?
Yes.
Committed to ending standardized testing. Listen to him.
As one of my friends in black pastors, I spent a lot of time, Reverend Henry would say, you're preaching to the choir, kid, okay? Because look, that's why teachers should be able to determine the curricula in their schools.
Really?
I'm not being nice. I'm not trying to be nice. There's some lousy teachers out there, okay? There's lousy politicians. There's lousy senators. There's lousy doctors. I'm not saying every teacher is a great teacher. What I am saying is, you know what it takes to communicate to a child what in fact they need to know. You should be able to set the dynamic as how to teach. So when I talk about teacher-centric school, and you and I've talked about, I don't want to get you in trouble, but we've talked a lot about this. I was sort of the kind of had an open door in our last administration, and it was my door that was opened. And we spent a lot of time talking about testing. I think it's a big mistake to move in a direction of making sure that it's all about either evaluating the teacher based on testing.
Really, Joe?
What their class is. For example, if you're teaching an advanced course in calculus, you're going to look really good, man, as a teacher teaching to the test. But if you're teaching a remedial course of reading like Jill used to do, it's going to be hard as hell because.
Real quick, for those of you joining just now, the teacher that asked this question is a member of the Black Lives Matter teachers advocacy, talking about how all of these standardized testing were failing children. Okay. So the irony is not just that to get elected in 2019 at this public education forum, that was, the panel was Randi Weingarten, the NEA. Hey girl, did you see this? So this public education forum, the Schott Institute, hosted in 2019, Bernie Sanders, all of them, Elizabeth Warren, all of them were there. This teacher stands up and she has a Black Lives Matter teacher shirt on and asks him, is he going to stop standardized testing? Just let's rewind it because it's even better.
Many teachers feel more like a test prep tutor than a test of children, and they're concerned that both teachers and students are heavily evaluated by standardized testing. Beginning in kindergarten, young children are losing time for play and discovery and instead forced into developmentally inappropriate academic instruction in an effort to get them prepared for tests. Although formal testing does not begin until 3rd grade, younger students are often bombarded with practice tests that narrow the curriculum and often leave them hating school. Given that standardized testing is rooted in a history of racism and eugenics, if you are elected president, will you commit to ending the use of standardized testing in public schools?
Yes. As one of my friends and black pastors has spent a lot of time hearing me say, you're preaching to the choir, kid, okay? Because look, that's why teachers should be able to determine the curricula in their schools. I mean, really? Nice. I'm not trying to be nice. There's some lousy teachers out there, okay? There's lousy politicians. There's lousy senators. There's lousy doctors. I'm not saying every teacher is a great teacher. What I am saying is, you know what it takes to communicate to a child what in fact they need to know. You should be able to set the dynamic as how to teach.
Black Lives Matter teacher, okay? I'm going to pause it right there real quick. Black Lives Matters teacher, okay? So this is this is where the paradigm that I've been doing a mind map all day is, we know they're bought and paid for. Okay, like we know that. So, but then that's how I stumbled upon this, was I was like, wouldn't a teacher, proudly Black Lives Matter teacher, who asks the question, why wouldn't they raise holy hell when this man did this YouTube channel, the show, you can watch all of it. There's like 78 subscribers to it, but it's one of those things that I guess was like got buried for a reason. But yeah, he gets all standardized tests. It's absolutely, it should be done away. Really? We've tripled down. It's not only gone away, it's like 3-4 times a year now.
And you and I've talked about, I don't want to get you in trouble, but we've talked a lot about this. I was sort of the, kind of had an open door in our last administration, and it was my door that was opened. And we spent a lot of time talking about testing. I think it's a big mistake to move in a direction of making sure that it's all about either evaluating the teacher based on testing or evaluating what their class is. For example, if you're teaching an advanced course in calculus, you're going to look really good, man, as a teacher.
Don't you look different?
The test. But if you're teaching a remedial course in reading like Jill used to do, it's going to be hard as hell because you're not going to have the same success rate. The generic point is teaching to a test underestimates and discounts the things that are most important for students to know. What are you trying to do most of all with students? Build their confidence. Make them believe in themselves. Be able to bring them along in a way that matters. And when you teach, when your testing is the measure of whether or not the student is successful, doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have a test of how much you've learned. That doesn't mean you don't do that. But testing to a standardized test just makes no sense.
Not standardized emotional tests, psychological.
C-Swipe is a teacher. Jill's a teacher. I taught in at-risk schools when I was going through law school, and I was a bus driver. And no, by the way, bus drivers and the folks in the cafeteria know a hell of a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, they do.
Not a joke. When I dropped a kid off, I knew whether or not that kid was going to an empty house.
Deb, I have to tell you. So in researching, because I questioned Jillian Balo, who was a teacher for 10 years, and then the state superintendent, who's now our state superintendent, brought in by Youngkin. I also found out Cardona taught in Connecticut for 10 years. Never even a state superintendent. He was, I think, a principal, maybe, before they brought him in. And then James Lane, after 8 years, is now under Cardona. So I'll proudly wear my tinfoil hat, because when I finish this mind map, I'm gonna have to move and hide because it's so big. But let me remind you, the NEA, the AFT, the people who were so No Child Left Behind, yes, they were, every student succeeds is gonna. They did not read ESSA, evidently, if they thought that it was going to replace No Child Left Behind, because it actually doubled down and made it 10 times worse. And so for him to be standing up here saying this after he was in office with Obama, who obliterated, gutted FERPA, okay, making parents the school, one of the things he did. So all these assessments that are not allowed without parental consent, these surveys, psychological assessments that generationally follow your child for 75 years after they graduate, okay? In loco parentis, and here's the thing, Virginia, and this probably includes most of you, is that under the Code of Virginia, is that in loco parentis also includes physical. So if you think this transgender stuff, and I told my girls I would do a 15-minute show. In loco parentis, that includes physical. So not just they don't really gutted FERPA so that they could give parental consent for these mental health. That's why when I say, they say, well, what about HIPAA? The guideline is if FERPA applies, HIPAA does not. And why is that such a broad statement? Because that's the way Obama gutted it to be. And I'm going to go into that. I was putting together a big show when I came on this. And if I sat on everything I came on, I would never do anything. But so what I want to know is, Black Lives Matter teacher, where are you today? Because I'm not going to keep rewinding it, but start the show over. And she says, how they're pushing children through without an education to be tested. Tell me, Black Lives Matter teacher, wherever you are, I'll do a show with you. How equity is not any different. Because I told somebody the other day, I might be a smidge to get behind equity if you could show me one child of Black, brown, Latino, whatever, anything other than white, or Asian or whatever, but that has actually benefited from equity. None of them. Everybody's plummeted. At what point do we say PBIS didn't work, restorative justice doesn't work, behavior, grades, all of it, and you can pinpoint it back to one specific point in time when all of this education reform 1.0, education reform 2.0, data, collect it. We haven't collected. Who's going to be able to see it that's going to actually can we see the data so that we can have somebody other than you, other than Castle, tell us what the data says? But this, man, I want to know where Black Lives Matter teacher is, who's still getting forced pay to play, living her life to get these kids ready for a test, and nobody's getting an education. And now they're getting forced through to make equity look like it works when it doesn't. So I want to know where she is. Where's the outrage for him?
I knew whether that kid was going to be alone. I knew whether that child had a real problem. Just like you do in the cafeteria they walk through, and you can see the look on their face. That they didn't have breakfast. They didn't have. So my generic point is, it's about the people in the system know what is the best thing to deal with. The
teachers know.
Get the most out of their students. But again, I am of the view that, as a guy who used to stutter badly, and you all still laugh at when I talk. People will laugh when I say I just talk like that. Only thing you can laugh about is somebody who stutters. But I tell you what, I had teachers who first and foremost worked on my confidence.
And I bet they didn't care. You didn't care what color skin they were. They were good teachers either way.
Sat with me and gave me the confidence to stand up and try to speak. Well, it's the same thing. You got to give these kids, especially coming from backgrounds where they're low-income families, they haven't had the same exposure and possibility, but it goes across the board. You got to give them confidence. That's what y'all do. You guys and women are not only teachers, you're coaches. You're coaching these kids.
Wait, this gets
You're
creepy.
the people tell them, okay, come on. Because that's why they try. What happens to your students when in fact they do poorly? Their interest isn't, most kids aren't saying, I'm going to work harder. It's, I can't do it. And then they use that excuse. Well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Okay, well, I'll just push you
Your
through anyway.
teachers who touch them, figuratively speaking.
Figuratively speaking.
Well, I hope you touch them and tell them how much you love them too. But my point is,
Deb?
when you
Are you supposed to touch them and tell your kids how much you love them? I'm just going to point that out because I remember one of the shows that we did. That's not your job, teacher. Okay? It's like being a parent. Your job as a teacher is not to love and tell your children how much you love them. I'm just going to throw that out there right there. No, that's the problem. Currently, teachers, no, that's not your job, is to be their friend. Okay? I don't want you to be my daughter's friend. I don't want you to pass her. I don't want you to give her 85 days past the date it's due to do it, because nobody's learning anything. And they're all going to become adults that lead this country. That's why this is the #1 fight that anybody running for a political office should care about right now, because you can fix whatever's going on 10 years, 5 years, whether it's gun or anything. But all these people in these education systems, they're going to grow up and become what? The leaders of the country. It doesn't matter what you say now, 5 years, 10 years from now. These are the people. Education is the only thing that matters right now.
Touch their hearts. They say, okay. And think about it, folks. I'll end with this. I'm sorry, but I feel passionate about this. Think about this. I'll bet every one of you can name a teacher who helped change your life. Literally gave you the confidence that you could do something you didn't think you could.
Yes, and his name at Midlothian Middle School was Mr. Anderson, and he taught 7th grade math. I hated math. I could not do math. Mr. Anderson, in his silk suits and his matching shoes, he was amazing. And he taught me to love math. And the different color of our skin did not matter. My calculus teacher, my pre-calculus teacher, my advanced calculus teacher, because Mr. Anderson taught me how to love math in 7th grade, old white woman, hated her. She hated me. So let's just talk about right there the teacher who taught me. I grew up here in Chesterfield, and the teacher who taught me was a black man, and we did not care about what color skin each other had. So keep that in mind when we're teaching our children and the educators and the administrators in our schools and what they're doing and allowing to happen to our children.
Whether it was in grade school, high school, or college. We can all name them. I know who mine were. I know who made a difference for me. Made me believe in myself and think I could do something. First kid in the family to go to college, but that wasn't a big deal. My parents valued education. But it was just that you can do it, Joey. You can do it. Let me tell you, that's a great piece. But like you can change this a little bit. Talk about it. Talk from your heart, Joey. Think of the people you help.
Amber, hold on. I got an IDEA one for you next.
You touch their hearts. You give them the confidence. And you can't.
What he says about funding and IDEA is next. So this is the Schott. That's not what I would like to call it from now on. So, real quick. So, go back and watch that. Okay. And then real quick, and I'm going to dissect it into how royally disgusting that is. And I had to put on my 007 parent shirt. This is when we attempted Bonds for the Win, and it pissed them all off because guess what? I'm backwards. It had a gun. They got a gun. That's what, no, dumbass, because it says James Bond on the back. Idiots. So I had to wear it because every time I do amazing investigative work, I'd find this. I wish I had time to write, but instead I just have to do this. So then I saw this one about IDEA, because we have all been asking, where is the IDEA money going? And then Deb and I, in one of our shows, we found the second step in Committee for Children matrices, which I just happened to have one right here in front of me from a meeting I had yesterday. So second step put this out. And it has every state and what grants, federal grants, you can use to fund social emotional learning. Committee for Children did the same thing, but they're the same people. Committee for Children, nonprofit, owning the for-profit. So, and it literally breaks down by state, IDEA, special ed grants to states. So all that ARP, IDEA money that we don't know where it is, because I know in Chesterfield County, we still got kids. We got no AIDS, but man, they're fully funded. They're so proud to be fully funded for the next 2 years here in Chesterfield. We still have a parent whose son sits in his diaper all day, 14 years old, with incontinence issues, special ed. Chesterfield County spent $250,000 fighting one parent who wanted them to take care of her child, who was not begged. She begged for years for her child to be evaluated. Extremely dyslexic, this child. And she just wanted them to help pay for the school that she had to send her to, because Chesterfield County fails children with historically marginalized. Nobody ever talks about IDEA children, the spED kids, especially at the VDOE. Jillian Balo got a letter from the Department of Education, where James Lane works, for all the stuff James Lane found guilty of before he left. And now he's under Cardona sending her letters warning about, why haven't you taken care of this? Are you kidding? Yes, I have the evidence. Yes, I have the letters. But they go into Title I, Part A, Title I, Part C. I mean, it is a list of every federal grant. Not only that, but how much every single state, how much of it that you can use. Oh, so the total allocation for IDEA is $11 billion. In Rhode Island, you can use $44 million of IDEA money for SEL. That's Rhode Island. Wait, that's right. Sometimes they put things in thousands to make it look like it's not that much money until you realize that it's in thousands, not in hundreds. But I thought. So real quick, I wanted to show, since you brought that up, Amber, one that I also saved of our good old buddy Brandon here, from the same Schott, Schott. And in the comment, I think I put it, but I'll share the whole document with you guys at the end. But yeah, let's look at this real quick, because this is IDEA. And I hope every SPED parent watches this. And I hope everybody who voted or continues to believe or just adamantly will not admit that we fucked up. I hope that everybody will at least grow some balls and say that, hey, Black Lives Matter teacher, do you remember this? Do you remember this? You cared so much about it then. Why haven't we heard anything about it? IDEA teacher here. Where are you? We know where the teachers on the right, to the right of center are. They're scared. They're being silenced. The left is not, or are they, if they speak out? But Lord have mercy.
We've been here since 9 this morning and we are tired. Yeah, we are staying this course. I also want to thank local organizers like 1PA who have diligently fought the fight. Yay! Those are my people. along for Journey for Justice, the coalition with Scott also. So thank you, Journey for Justice, for all the hard work that you've done. So my question, Vice President Biden, is that my nephew, who's 19 and attends Pittsburgh City Connection, which provides continual programming in the community-based setting for students 18 to 21 years old with moderate to severe disabilities here in Pittsburgh. Our previous governor cut $1 billion of our education budget, which left our local school districts struggling to make up for the loss. IDEA, a law written and passed to protect.
Real quick, I'm going to chime in about Governor Youngkin, the money for the immigrant children that had to be pulled and funded for the historically Black colleges and universities. I'm going to mention that right now, because if the left, every document about the ARP money was all about immigrant children, English as a second language, all of those children. How in the world are you going to have a General Assembly and a governor that thinks it's okay to pull money from immigrant children to send it to the historically Black colleges and universities? Just going to drop that off, right? Just random thought.
Special education system has been underfunded by our federal government for the past 40 years. Here in Pittsburgh, our students have been shorted by as much as $400 million over the past 12 years, according to some reports. As president, how will you commit to fully funding IDEA, Title I, and deliver on a long overdue broken promise?
Yeah, Joe, 2019, tell us what you're going to do.
Said from the beginning, look, this is about more than money. This is about when I voted for IDA back in the 70s and again reauthorized it in 95 as a senator. What I talked about was what my dad used to say. Every parent's entitled to maintain their dignity based on income and the rest. But here's the deal. How can you maintain your dignity when you look at your, is it nephew? Nephew. And you realize the nephew has enormous potential. But you look at you walk in, like Jill and I talked about this when she was teaching in the public school system in Delaware for the first 15 years. You walk in and you meet a special ed teacher. And on the night that parents come in for student teacher night.
Which I don't have anymore. Student teaching? Nope.
I'm sorry, I just don't have the resources. I don't have the resources. It is wrong. And the reason why I think, and I propose and laid out exactly how I'd pay for it, $139 billion over the next 10 years.
Here's how I would pay for it, okay? He did pay for it. The ARP money had specific IDEA funding, okay? So I'm not, but where did that money go? Social emotional learning. Not one child in special ed across this country is any better off than they were in this year, last year, the year before that. Here, 20, 30, I don't even know that if they've ever. And look at the federal funding. Who holds them responsible for this Fed Ed when the Fed Ed fails them?
The fully funded fund IDEA. Now here's what before you, let me tell you why I think it's so important. I think the way we sell it, we don't sell it the right way. You realize if we fully fund, by the way, just the funding we've done, the increase in graduation rate by 45% of people in that circumstance with disabilities, and 25% increase in the number of people going on to college. But when we make the case, and I will make the case, and we do it by dealing with raising the corporate tax rate to 28% from 20, it doesn't need to be what it is. What we do is we end up making the case, look, it will save the public billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars. To have someone who has a disability have the capacity to maintain their own well-being, to be independent, and maintain the ability to keep themselves together when mom and dad and aunt and uncle are gone, saves billions of dollars over time. So the $139 billion over the next 10 years is a drop in the bucket compared to what will cost if we don't address this problem. We don't. And so I've met with the special ed teachers. How many of you teach special ed? How many times, no, I'm not joking, how many times you have to look at a parent and say, I know. So I know, I really mean it. And so that's what we have to do. We have to fund it. And look, again, my time's running out, but here's the deal, folks. The idea that in this God-forsaken, lousy tax break given to the super wealthy, that we cannot find the money to fund Title I, IDEA, to deal with making sure that teachers are able to write off their student debt, that we're in a position where you have to go on, their teachers should be paid for my wife put together a mentoring program in
we know about your wife
down in Northern Virginia Community College. Well, guess what? Public school teachers are doing the same thing. You're mentoring other teachers. You should be able to be paid.
Oh, look, next to Randy. Oh, good old Randy.
You don't have to go out and get a second job. You're doing it anyway. So the whole range of things that are overwhelming the interest of the country, and those folks who say they don't want to fund this stuff, it's ridiculous. It's bizarre. It's overwhelming interest. These are money-saving propositions.
It's not about saving money, Joe.
To make sure it is fully
okay. What do you say? $139 billion for IDEA over the next 10 years. Okay. That was him in 2019. Okay. Let's keep in mind. All right. That's what he said. But then he made it about saving money in the future, not about the sped kids. That's what I took out of it. That's what I took out of it. So I'm going to go. But starting from the top, because the title, I didn't intend until Amber said something to include the IDEA one, because I was really going to jump on and do a 15-minute show. And now we're at 32 minutes. But I am going to do more on this. But this is the Public Education Forum Equity Opportunity for All from the Schott Foundation. Of course, it had, everybody you can imagine, the NEA, the AFT, all of them there. The ones who still to this day will, especially Randi Weingarten, will not admit that when her ESSA, I have it from the NEA conference where she was so proud of everything that they had done for ESSA and I was going to get rid of No Child Left Behind. Really? You lost. Okay. You and Bill Gates should at least have a tiny bit of humility and be like, we screwed up, please. But the BLM teacher to asking, are you going to make sure that all of this assessment and these tests, standardized testing ends? That was at the beginning of this one. Ended. You started over. Okay, I want to know where that BLM teacher is and why she has not raised holy hell in the last 2 years, asking why they're still teaching and why they're still being paid to play or test the teacher. Okay, right here in his words, he says, yes, it will end. No, it hasn't ended. It's gotten worse. Every year, there's more legislation to add more. Oh, we're not just going to do SOLs once a year, twice a year, three times a year. I think it's gone up next year. You know what? $20,000 to get my girls out next year, worth every penny. I'll do anything that I can to get them out of that. I'm working with a homeschool coordinator to have a show for parents who are clueless but want to get them out, because I know it's way too overwhelming. I can't even do it right. And I know that Deb, she'll be my on-call. Like, I don't know what to do here because I don't know anything about homeschooling. and mine are not going to be homeschooled for different reasons, which are my own. But I do believe in it 100%. And I used to be one of those people that said, I just don't think that they're going to get socialized properly. Like literally, when people used to try to tell me about homeschooling, like a year ago, that's how full. Like I love when people say, "I've gone 360." No, I've gone 180, and I'm absolutely so. I'm glad that they're no longer going to be socialized by the public school system. But so this is just something I just want to quickly show y'all because it blew my mind. And when things continually blow my mind, that is an odd day for me because there are rare times that I'm like, but to have the teacher, it was mainly teacher asks him this. He says this. And then I was like, well, now I got to find where that actually is recorded. And I did. But then when she, in the beginning of the video, talks about all the different organizations she's a part of, badass, Mama Jamma teach, I don't even know what it was. And then the BLM, and she has a shirt on. Is that what I want to know is, where are you? Because I know that you're still, or has equity. Are you one of those teachers where, as long as there's equity being done, you don't care about everything else? Because that's what I'm finding out is that there's a lot of people who believe one way, but they're so firm that equity is good, is whatever, or they've been told. There's nobody I can't think of that actually believes that's working because you can't skew anything enough to tell me anywhere in this country that equity, social emotional learning, any of that is working. Even Cardona's own clearinghouse says, second step, achieve 3,000. I have all the clearinghouses that say there's no evidence any of this works. So write me, find me, let's figure out a way because I have no idea how to, because I pulled my kids are safe, but I'm going to still be here until I tear it down and then I'll help build it back up without funding and get it back to the way it was supposed to be. Because I believe in the public school system. I do. Oh, they just want to privatize. No, I want my kids in public school. I don't want it in this as in this. Okay. Not this. I don't mind her public school now, or the one she was just in, but this county, this state, and what we just did November 2nd and what's not being done for these kids today, almost July, 6 months later. What I want to know. Lego, yay. No, Lego. Metaverse, look it up. Lego Ventures, look it up. Global Economic Forum. Okay. We got duped, and I'm just going to leave it with that. But I don't know if I'd rather have McAuliffe when I know what somebody wants or what their plan is for my children, or to play whack-a-mole with somebody that I stood shoulder to shoulder with about 15 to 20 times in 2 months, who lied bold-faced, and I believed it. And I played whack-a-mole wondering, what's he going to do next? What's he going to do next? And I hate having to blow up. Nope, Lego. Nope. I bet one Lego does not get built in that plant right down the street. Nope. Metaverse, Lego. Look at the recent merger, the acquisition that just happened. Guys, it's out there. Question everything. You're being lied to. And I'll put my tinfoil hat on and I will cheers now. And I will want to know comments. You're welcome to write me on Twitter. I won't fight with you and see. Are you still proud you voted for this man? Are you? Or are you somebody that can be humble enough, like walk away? Brandon Strachka, walk away Virginia, walk away all over the state that can be like, yep, nope. Even Ronald Reagan was bold enough to say, I was once a Democrat. You know that was the last president because Bush Sr., 88, Charlottesville, Virginia, with Clinton. Oh, God, putting these pieces together has been a whoo. And then you throw the wrench at the gears. Trump. But researching what he had in place, especially with this ed tech stuff and the FTC from 2017 to 2019, that disappeared. Yep, not supposed to happen. But anyway, I'll get into that later. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. And I will talk to you guys later.